Okay, you are now live.
Excuse me.
Well, I see that it's 4:30, so I'll call the Dunn County Solid Waste and Recycling Management Board to order. And Morgan, you can take the roll call. You can see who was up there. And we have enough for the meeting to go forward. Has everybody had a chance to look at the meeting minutes for October 6th? And if so, would it be a motion to approve such
Yes.
meeting? Is there a second to that motion?
I'll second. Tim Lino. I'll second.
So there's been a motion and a second to approve the meeting minutes, October 6th. Are there any additions or corrections? All in favor of approving that motion, say aye.
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 Opposed?
Aye.
Okay, the meetings are approved. Has there been any public comment, Krista, that you've been emailed?
Not for this meeting, no.
Okay. Then I think it's going to be kind of a short meeting because we have a board meeting, a county board meeting tonight anyhow. So I think we'll go right to the staff report, Morgan.
Okay. The first thing on the list here under staff report is discussion of the options that you have regarding the potential for a transportation lease or a transportation sale. We've gotten letters of inquiry of interest for both. We've been contacted by some private haulers who have an interest in purchasing the facility. We've had communications with UW Stout. As you know, Zenon has been working with the sustainability group to put a proposal together for a university lease of the transfer station to make some improvements there and do basically a university material recovery facility for the UW Stout campus and possibly UW River Falls and UW Eau Claire. So I think, this is on the list tonight kind of as just a discussion point so that we can get a feel for what you all feel is an appropriate direction moving forward. If it's in the best interest for the county to sell the facility outright, or if it's in the county's best interest to keep it in ownership and lease it to a responsible organization like UW Stout, I think would be great. Ed did call, when he called me yesterday, he said that the town of Menominee has an interest in possibly working with the city of Menominee to lease the transfer facility. I have not heard anything from the city in that regard, so I don't know what stage of discussion that is, but I have talked with several other people in the county administration system who feel that the leasing opportunity would be most beneficial for the county. That way the facility stays in governmental use. We know it'll be responsibly managed and it'll remain in our ownership. So at some point in the future, even though the referendum did not pass, we had some good support on it, but it did not pass. But nonetheless, if the transportation remains in our ownership at some point in the future, if there's enough demand, we could possibly put some kind of program back together. So
just one question for Zenon. If Stout would want to lease it, are they looking for just like recyclables or solid waste also?
Well, I'll preface this with the process is taking much longer than I had anticipated to come up with a letter of inquiry, which is non-binding. However, I'm meeting with the chancellor next week to give more information to her to see how she feels about moving forward. That being said, it was our subcommittee's thought that we would only be doing a recycling of mandated and non-mandated recycling materials. No trash, no compost.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Has there been any, Morgan, private vendors that are looking to lease, or are they just looking to buy?
the only inquiries that I've got came either via a letter that was forwarded to me from the county manager as he received those directly, and I've fielded a few phone calls from private haulers, and most have been interested in the purchase option.
Okay.
Yeah.
But hopefully it's the consent of the the board that we just would like, continue ownership in the near future until things kind of shake out. So you have kind of idea of what's going to happen in the future. So I think just by leasing it would be our best option. But that depends on.
I would second that, Gary. I would be adamantly opposed to selling it at this point.
Hopefully that's the feeling of the whole board as a whole. So we'll just kind of keep that on the agenda.
Gary,
Yes.
this is Forrest Johnson here. I wouldn't close out any options that you have. You know, you gotta field your offers or how much it's worth. And I think maybe the municipalities probably should get a chance at renting the building or buying it kind of first, like all the equipment too was sent. Just my opinion.
Okay. Thank you.
Say
Anybody
that again, Forrest. Say that again, would you, Forrest?
Okay. I don't think we should shut down any options that are out there, you know, like saying we're going this direction and that's it. You know, you don't know how much, you know, what it's going to be for price for selling. Then are you fielding how much you're going to be able to rent it for and bidders? But I also think maybe the municipalities should have maybe first shot at getting it since they were part of it first.
Okay.
But I don't think I've seen any like hard numbers of any purchase offers either. It's just been like that they would like to look at the possibility, but there's been no figures as far as I know that has been presented. Is that right, Morgan?
That's correct. And it's going to take some time to suss all of that out. So depending on the timeline that we want to establish here for entertaining, whether, you know, we want to entertain some bids for sale versus the lease scenario, that is going to take some time to put that together. There's a lot of variables there. So if it's the will of the board, we can begin to look at the total property value and equipment value in the, you know, an assessment for a potential sale. That'll also tie into the lease options as well for the equipment and stuff that we have there.
Right. And Mr. Chair?
Yes, sir.
By leasing it doesn't preclude selling it at some point in the future.
Right.
So we keep that option open.
And I think it's almost better for the whole facility if you keep something going on there, because it seems like that's when things really go downhill, when it's kind of, mothballed. If you can keep, something going on in there, it would be a big help. Any other?
Mr. Chair,
Tim?
I have a question. Does this, do these lease options or sell options, does this involve the adjoining property that's undeveloped?
That would be something that would be considered. You know, in the talks that the preliminary talks that we've had with Stout regarding the lease, that might be an option in the future for them if they wanted to take on food waste composting. The 20-acre parcel next door would be ideal for that. But starting out, I think what they would plan to do if they push forward with a lease would be to just maintain operations on the transfer station main property only. We continue to lease that 20-acre parcel to the Merritt family, and they do farm that every year. We receive a lease amount of $3,000 a year for them to farm that 20-acre parcel.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
this is Paul Miller, the county manager. I think what staff is looking for, and I think the entities that have forwarded letters of inquiry are looking for, is something a little bit more definite. There are costs associated with putting together a formal purchase offer, both for us and for the ones making the offer. There are costs associated with the lease. I think a more definitive answer from this board, if it's seriously going to consider purchase options, then I think it's important that this board say, yes, we encourage purchase offers to be put together, We encourage them to be formal, and we will give them serious consideration because we may very well sell it. If that's not the case, I think it would be better if this board said, at this time, we're not looking at purchase offers for the benefit of those who would make the offer otherwise, and saving them the time and the money to pull that together. If there is interest in lease, I think an equally clear statement from this board is important so that those who would pull together those options would know, yes, this board is going to seriously consider and recommend leasing in the next year. Please pull together the formal offer. I believe that's what we're looking for. You may want to consider simply a roll call vote kind of thing on serious consideration of purchase offers and serious consideration of lease offers. And perhaps the majority will give the indication to those who would make those offers of which direction they should go.
And I think that'll be on the December agenda. But
Right.
Who do we contact, Mr. Miller, to get a price for what it's worth or a price for what it should be leased for? Do we go to an outside appraisal?
I believe
Just we have some idea if the offers are appropriate or not.
Right. I think if we don't have the internal resources to know the market value of the land and improvements and equipment, then we owe it to the residents to reach out to an organization that does. Morgan, there's got to be professional organizations that can assist us with that if we need it?
Absolutely. And I would recommend that too, because we really don't have the resources to assess that properly.
I know typically at Stout here, we require, for instance, when we're buying a property, the owners would provide an assessment, and we would also provide an assessment, and we would take the, I don't remember if it's the average of the two. I don't remember those, but might be something we want to consider.
So why don't you put on that on the next agenda, Morgan, for getting the appropriate company or individual to help us navigate the lease option or the purchase, what the value would be. So we can discuss it there, and we can also then get a feeling from the board of what direction they'd like to, lean to, either the lease or the outright selling of the property.
Yep, I'll certainly do that. The assessment very likely would not be done by the
Right.
by December, but we get the process started.
Mhm. So let's go on to the limited term employees.
Yeah, so I think the last time we spoke at the last meeting, we were working towards transitioning most of our attendants to a county limited term employment program. We have done that now successfully. All of the attendants working the collection sites and the transfer station are now done county employees, limited term employees. It's been working very well. We consolidated days and hours of operations at some of the satellite sites so we could work the same teams of individuals out there. So we have some of our best attendants now, core groups of our best attendants running the sites, and it's working well. We brought over a total of 12 LTEs in that program that were former contracted labor, and we've terminated that contract with our former staffing agency. We do have a lead operator position open. It's a full-time position at the transfer station, full-time limited term through the end of the year, with the possibility maybe of going into the first month of January. That has to be determined yet. But if anybody knows of a loader operator that's looking for full-time work, at least for the next month and a half, definitely send them to NeoGov. That's where our posting is. We're doing that with admin, and the job position is posted on NeoGov. So if you do know of anybody that's looking for some work through the end of the year, maybe they're laid off or they're just waiting in between jobs, it'd be a great opportunity for somebody with some heavy equipment experience.
Whose position is that, Morgan?
The lead operator is second in command to the transfer station manager. So right now, Mike Larson, who's on the call, I want to thank him for really towing the line down there. Mike is working a lot of overtime to get things done with his team down there. He's doing a great job. But the lead operator is a buffer to the transfer station manager. So I'd really like to only work an employee 40 hours down there. And there's certain days when we can actually use, two effectively transfer station managers on our busy days, when we're getting in all the container boxes and we're getting in all the trash and we're open to the public and things get really, things get cranking down there and we can use the extra hand. So that's worked well in the past. We've had the lead operator role in there to cover for the transfer station manager on his days off and to cooperate with the team on those busy days. So we would definitely, we've budgeted for this. We would really like to get a person in there to do that. We've had a couple of inquiries. They've not really been worked out according to the type of experience that we're looking for the position. So HR lets me know every day when the new candidates come up, and we contact them and hope to get someone in the loader soon.
But there should be quite a few people out there, because a lot of the construction people get laid off right around Thanksgiving and they don't go back till early spring. So there should be some individuals that might want a little extra income.
I have no doubt the perfect candidate is out there. I think with the whole COVID scenario and the way unemployment is working right now, it's kind of difficult to lure people off the unemployment, because it's, they've increased that amount and they've relaxed the guidelines for that unemployment. So, but I agree, there should be plenty of qualified candidates out there. So NeoGov is a great resource to recruit those people.
Okay.
Yeah.
So let's go on to item E, open of sealed bids for the collection site assets.
Okay, so we received 2 letters. Bids, I should say, one from the town of Rock Creek and one from the village of Colfax. So, and what this is for the purchase of surplus equipment that we know we'll have available from the collection sites that won't be operated by the particular municipalities in 2021. So Gary, with your permission, I can open these.
Yes, please go ahead.
Okay.
Welcome, Chuck.
Hello. I
And
finally learned something today. Whether I'll remember it or not, that's the big question.
there you go.
Okay, so I've opened the letter for town of Rock Creek. This is from Harry Warden, the town chair, great guy. RE sealed bid for Seabright 5060 compactor and receiving unit. So he's talking about the compactor and the receiver box. It says, Dear Dunn County Solid Waste Recycling, the town of Rock Creek hereby submits a bid of $16,250 for either of the available compactors. Direct any questions or comments to the undersigned. Thank you, yours truly, Harry Warden. So there's the bid for, looks like they're looking for one additional compactor and receiver box. They're willing.
How many, Morgan, like receiver boxes is there on those 2? Is there just one for each one?
Well, we have a total of 2 compactors and 3 receiver boxes available. And the reason that there's an extra receiver box out there, we call that our floater box. And whenever our hauler comes to pick up a full receiver box, he always drops an empty right away. And that way we don't have to wait for that transition time for the box to get to the landfill and return. And where you run into problems there is that if there's a hiccup at the landfill, or you've got a business day the next day and your compactor box is gone, you're not going to be able to accept trash and compact it if you don't have a receiver box. So that's where that extra box comes into play for us. And when I put that information out in the email regarding the surplus equipment, I explained it just like that. It's a great option to have for anybody that's looking for a quick turnaround on their compactor switches. So
would that third box be like a separate bid then, Morgan?
would be, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so according to Rock Creek's letter here, the way I'm reading this is they're looking to purchase one additional compactor and receiver box at $16,250.
Okay.
Okay, and then I'll open the Village of Colfax bid. Now, this might be a good time for for Terry to talk about the Colfax RU, because there's 9 municipalities involved in that. So I know for a fact that this letter is very likely going to include an offer to purchase an extra compactor for Colfax and for Elk Mound, because they're partners in this new RU. So, but I can tell
Terry,
you.
would you like to go ahead, Terry?
Whatever is appropriate.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
just go ahead.
Okay, well, at this time, I know we've had several meetings. Obviously, it was much more complicated than we thought, as we got into with the regulations. Morgan's been a great help to us as well, but I think Scott, as president for the Village of Colfax, and Lynn there as administrator clerk, they've done an excellent job of trying to get up to speed, but we got a ways to go. So we're having meetings about every 2 weeks, and then some individual meetings during the weeks. Everybody's got assignments and trying to catch up. If I'm correct, I'm probably the only one in the 9 unit committee that has had solid waste board experience. And I thank you very much for all that in the past. Not that makes me a genius in any way, but it's been very helpful.
We thank you, Terry, for that.
Well, again, it's been a pleasure. And so we're moving ahead with, some changes at the different sites, mainly to try to handle the volume. And again, as Gary mentioned, there'll be the 6, at the Colfax site. And I understand now that Sand Creek might have some interest in coming there as well for some things, maybe recyclables or whatever. I'd like to verify that. And then at Elk Mound, we would be having, like 3 sites in particular. But both sites would be available to all 9 municipalities, just to make that clear. For some reason, it was convenient to come since we're all in the same RU together. So we're in the, I guess not to keep it limited here, unless you got any other more questions, we're working on getting the equipment, in place. My biggest concern is the transition, personally, while the county program is still going on, the RU wants to make some changes, some saw cutting and some things down there. And so that yesterday I talked to Randy, the Director of Public Works, to make, we talked about that timing, that if you're closed, and the weather, of course, playing against us, if we're closed on a Saturday night, you got till the following Saturday, not to be in the way of the county is running the program as it is now. So, that's a major concern. 2 major issues being the weather's not the best, and then also the holidays, play in there for transition time. So, so if you got any other questions, Gary, or anybody else, I'll be happy to try to answer them, or I will get an answer by December 1st when we meet.
Terry, this is
I thought
Steve.
I've heard, yes.
Yes, Steve.
What 9 municipalities are joining your RU responsible unit?
I tell you, I don't.
What municipalities are coming?
Okay, I
The
don't have it.
9.
I don't have that list. I could pretty much, tell you several of them. I know Town of Wilson, Town of Colfax, Village of Colfax, I think Otter Creek, and the list goes on. I left that particular folder in another office that's a ways away. But
I have
and then,
the
of course-
list. If you'd like me to read it.
okay,
It's the Village of Colfax RU is going to include Town of Colfax, Town of Otter Creek, Town of Grant, Town of Tanner, Town of Wilson, Town of Elk Mound, Village of Elk Mound, Town of Springbrook.
Okay.
Terry?
Sand Creek is on.
yes.
Question for Terry. I've heard some rumors that the per capita is going to be $28 per person. Have you heard anything about that they're looking at?
I tell you, originally it was in some areas, in the 20s to 30s. It's going to be finalized shortly. A lot depends on how things go tonight again, because here again, we're looking at purchasing more equipment. So if I understand Lynn right, who's doing that, there are figures out there, but she'd rather not have, say much to people until we get, a little closer. I'm very sorry about that, Gary. It's just the timing
That's
of
okay.
things. Not knowing how the bidding, but great question. Just not knowing how things would go tonight on the bidding.
Any other board members like to have a question of Terry? If not, Morgan, why don't you open up the bid for the the town of, or the village of Colfax are you?
Yep, I have that open. This is from Lynn Nigaman, and she says the village of Colfax is the responsible unit for the Colfax site and the Elk Mound site. I am speaking on behalf of both sites when I am responding to the bid request. As we have indicated in previous correspondence, the village of Colfax and the primary user townships will be purchasing the 2 Colfax compactor receiver units and all other items at the Colfax site for $30,000, and the village of Elk Mound and the primary user townships will be purchasing the 2 Elk Mound compactor receiver units and all other items at the Elk Mound site for $30,000. The item listed below is available through the sealed bid process due on or before November 6, 2020. Please see our responses below. If the village of Colfax responsible unit is awarded the bid for the extra receiver box, please notify Village of Colfax, Lynn Nigaman. So it looks like this is strictly for a bid for the extra receiver box. It is not a bid for compactors. And they bid $5,121 for that extra receiver box.
Isn't that kind of strange, Terry, that they're not wanting the
They elected as a group, different people. Gary had assignments or whatever. I wasn't on that particular committee grouping
Okay.
things, and their logic when they came back was this recommendation, which, you know, in a
Okay.
spirit of getting along with everybody, I went along with it too. But they have some other options they think might work as well or better, I guess.
Okay. So would any board member like to make a motion to approve those 2 bids?
I make a motion to approve those 2 bids. Forrest Johnson.
I'll second Tim Lee now.
Okay. There's been a motion and a second to approve the bids of $16,250 for Rock Creek for the compactor and 1 receiver box.
I'm just wondering, Gary, quick, if I may ask.
And that is for the town of Colfax. Is that 1 receiver box for the town of Colfax or is that for 2 of them? That price?
One
Okay.
receiver box.
And town of, or the village of Colfax at $5,121, I believe, for that 1 receiver box.
Correct.
There's been a motion and a second. All in favor?
Gary, if I may just ask quick, given my position that I would benefit from this, I'm wondering with either Paul or Keith there, if I should probably abstain because I would, you know, our group would personally benefit, but I'm not sure the right or wrong of that.
Abstaining would be appropriate, Mr. Stam.
I
All right,
don't,
thank you.
I don't see no problem with that, with you, like you bidding, but you maybe, you abstaining like wouldn't hurt nothing at all. That way there's no,
Right.
that you're trying to, like, you help your local against the county, so,
Right. Well, thank you.
yep. So,
Mr. Chair,
yes, sir. Steve,
so can I recap what I understand to be the bids? Elk Mound and Colfax, well, Colfax is the RU, is putting a bid in for both Colfax site and the Elk Mound site for $30,000 for the compactor and the box, receiver box. And they're putting in a bid for an extra receiver box for 5,000 and change. Is that what I'm understanding?
that's my understanding, right, Morgan?
Yeah, if I can clarify this,
I
the
can't hear
bid, the bidding process is strictly for the surplus equipment. We've offered the in situ collection site equipment, the stuff that's already installed there. We offered that to all of the municipalities who intend to run a collection site. And the village of Colfax and the village of Elk Mound have already agreed that they want that equipment at the $15,000 base price tag. And along with that, they get all of the accessory equipment, the office, the container and fiber boxes, the dog kennels, the outhouses, et cetera. The bidding process, the sealed bid process, was strictly to make it equitable for everybody regarding the surplus equipment.
And how many extra boxes are there?
When you say boxes, what are you referring to? Receiver boxes?
Receiver boxes.
There is only one extra receiver box, but now with the Village of Colfax, are you not wanting to purchase that extra compactor? Rock Creek will get one, and we will have one surplus compactor and receiver box left over for sale, which will probably be sold at auction next year, I would assume.
Are there any other comments on this motion?
So then Colfax gets a compactor and a receiver box. Elk Mound gets a compactor and a receiver box, each site for 15 grand, and no extra receiver boxes. But Rock Creek put in a bid for one extra receiver box.
No,
Is that right?
nope. So Colfax is going to buy the two compactors and two receiver boxes that they have at the site for a total of $30,000. They also opted to purchase the extra receiver box so that they could get those timely switches. Rock Creek bid on a single compactor, extra compactor, and a single receiver box mated to that compactor. They also intend to purchase the compactor and receiver box that exists at their site now for $15,000. So, the Rock Creek
So
is
Colfax gets both Colfax and Elk Mound. Those are the two.
Colfax has two compactors and receiver boxes that they're purchasing, and Elk Mound has two compactors and receiver boxes that they're purchasing. Yes.
15 grand each.
Yes.
30,000 per site.
Yes.
Got it. Thank you.
Thank you. So there's been a motion and a second, and there's been discussion. So all in favor of that motion, please say aye.
Aye.
I'll abstain.
Opposed?
I'll abstain.
And it should be noted that, Terry abstained. So now we have one receiver box and one compactor left, right?
Correct. And we have some container boxes. So the multi-compartment container boxes,
Okay.
fiber and plastic container boxes. We have some of those for surplus. We also have the Ridgeland site and all of its equipment as well. That'll be up for auction, including the site itself. I did calculate a value for the site. I worked with Nick Lang on in-rem property values because it's a pretty small site. It's 1.5 acres. The in-rem value is approximately $2,844 for the 1.58 acres that are there.
So is that where that one compactor is coming from then, Morgan? Is from Ridgeland? That's not spoken for?
Well, there's the compactors are located, the surplus compactors are located in Connorsville and Ridgeland. So whichever one is closer makes the most sense.
Okay.
Is the one will.
Okay. So let's go on to EB. What kind of a timeline should these municipalities be paying for those compactors and receiver boxes? We don't want to go too long, but what would be appropriate? Any comments?
My personal thought would be 45
Well, they
days.
get their tax. I agree with Tim.
Tim, go
They
ahead.
get their, I agree with Tim. They get their first half of the tax receipts by the end of January. So middle of February, they should write a check.
Tim, what do you think?
45 days.
After January 1st, are you talking?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
Because there's going to be some bugs getting everything set up and whatever.
okay. Any other comments? Dave Bartlett, what do you think?
I guess 45 days is okay. I would expect when we buy equipment, we usually pay for it on delivery, but they're going to be taking it out, and I realize, like Tim said, there's going to be probably some bugs removing stuff. the one in Connorsville plans on using that site for recycling. So to remove what's going to be removed there would be advantageous for them to get that one out first.
Okay,
You know, I'm sure we can live with 45 days.
any other comments on the timeline?
I have one comment. I think if they're going to receive the equipment and begin using the equipment, there's an assigned liability really. If they aren't going to be paying for 45 days after receipts, we should probably work out in the sale agreement that, they would be responsible for purchasing the unit after 45 days. Not that it would come back to the county. They would change their mind and maybe, something gets damaged during transport or something like that. So
There's also the potential for maintenance during that 45-day period as well.
Yeah. So I would think, something in the contract that would say that, that once you buy it like January 1st, any kind of maintenance or breakdowns, we're selling it as is. And, if there's a major breakdown, I don't think we should be responsible after it's already been sold. So maybe
Right.
something, Mr. Stray.
Chair, I'm sorry, let me bring my microphone down. Appreciate the opportunity. I would recommend working with Corporation Counsel to clearly articulate in the sales agreement, all sales are final, period. Payment can be made up to 45 days after January 1. And Nick may massage that language to put a date specific, but more or less indicating all sales are final. County is no longer has any responsibility at all for the equipment. It minimizes our risk. I am with Chairman Bartlett. Most of the equipment, the county, we're not able to stretch out we don't pick up vehicles, we don't pick up equipment without payment at delivery. So this is a concession in some respects.
And the
So
buyer has to remove it all, don't they?
correct.
So, once they start working on it, there's some opportunity there for some damage. So, I don't know. I guess I go back to my original statement that I would like to see payment, when they take it. They've bought it. And so, and it's not, it's a lot of money, but yet in the scheme of things, it's not a lot of money. So a group of townships probably can come up with $5,000 or $16,000 to pay for the equipment.
Have you heard anything, Terry, about the timeline that you guys are looking at for payment?
They were open for that type. They were hoping for after, again, like when you talked about the money coming into the municipalities from an accounting standpoint, hoping for at least 30 days after the first. That rough discussions around that area. 45, sounded good. I can understand Dave's, view of it as well. But then they also talked about us getting all the insurance in place. We're meeting, and we have met already with our insurance people to make sure that property liability and potentially maybe some pollution insurance would all be online definitely before January 1st or at that time,
Okay.
along with maintenance agreements in detail.
So now what are you talking about? Like you maintenance, because once you buy it, right? Or what are you?
Right.
looking
And
for?
then to be, it's like, I think like anybody buys a used car, you can anticipate the worst and hope for the best. So
There
I
you
think
go.
that, it's been our logic.
You
So
bought
to
it,
have
you
those-
got it.
Yeah.
To have those maintenance agreements in place in December is what our plan is, so that they would take effect or whenever we get it, move it.
Yeah.
But in our case, it's only the receiver box. So I can't say for the compactor and the other unit now, but receiver box, getting it out of there, realizing that's our responsibility and whatever happens that.
I like what Keith Stray said about getting the corporal council making up an agreement that's all legal and binding, that all sales are final. So I think the only question is what date we want the payment to be paid in full? Is it January 1st? Is it February 1st or February 15th? Would somebody like to make a motion of those 3 dates? January 1st, February 1st, or February 15th?
I'll make a motion to February 15th, because that is the winter time and it's hard to get people to get stuff done. And if you've got 2 weeks of below zero weather, you're dealing with hydraulics and electronics. I don't know. I think townships may need a little time.
Okay, we have a motion for February 15th. Would there be a second?
I'll second Zenon.
Okay, we have a motion and a second for February 15th. Any comments? Any discussion?
Will it be a separate item to set a date for when you want it actually out of there? I mean, I realize they have to operate right to the end, right? Or are some of those places closed? I meant to ask that before, Gary. I apologize. But that timing issue still comes into play as to when, somebody can take it from there.
My understanding is that we're going to be closed like the week before. You just have us get our things in order. Is that right, Morgan?
Let me elaborate a little bit on that. So what I've done is, I think about 3 weeks ago now, I sent a letter to all the municipalities who would be operating sites. And I asked, hey, I need to know what your ideas are for end of the year transitions here, because remember, we've got quite a few sites we have to button up before the end of the year to make that transition to municipal management as smooth as possible. And that means I've got to get all my haulers in there to remove boxes, empty out receiver boxes, clean the sites, empty out the sheds, get my resource recovery teams out there. As Terry mentioned, we're right in the middle of winter. We're right around the Christmas and New Year's holidays. So hauler availability is going to be compromised. It's going to be really, really tough if everybody wants this thing done in the last week of the year. So I've asked in that email for anybody that would, give me some guidance on when they feel sometime in December, preferably in early December, to start making those transitions. In Terry's case, in Elk Mound, they've got to do saw cutting into the concrete and asphalt to make room for the electrical for an additional compactor that I think they still plan to install there. So that's going to take time where you can't have the site open while that's going on. And of course, the time that I'll need for our haulers and our resource recovery teams to get in and clean and empty everything too. All of that can't take place in one week, especially the holiday Christmas week. That's not going to work. So we have to figure this out. And as of right now, Sand Creek is the only one that has gotten back to me and said that they are willing to take over their site December 15. And they also offered to purchase 2 boxes. They did not do a sealed bid proposal, but they said that they would like to purchase their container and fiber box that is up there. And I have those numbers here. It's just the base rate that we put forward. So,
So
Mr. Chairman,
we should find out by the 1st of December then, well, what kind of timeline we got to work with, right? Hopefully.
well, starting tomorrow, because there's, I have not gotten any additional input from the municipalities on when they would like that transition to take place. So I'm going to have to start pushing now to get them to work on a schedule, because like I said, it is going to be very difficult to accommodate everybody at the same time. Matter of fact, it'll be impossible. So we're going to have to spread that out.
So
Mr.
let's
Chairman,
get back. Yes, sir, Mr. Miller.
at the risk of sounding like I've fallen behind here, are we talking about 2 different things? The discussion and the motion has to do with the payment due, but we're also talking about when the actual equipment would be transferred and taken out.
This was kind of, there's been a motion and a second, and this year was just kind of the discussion, and it kind of got like sidetracked a little bit. So
I'll take the blame. But I think
the motion again was to allow the payment for the equipment to be February 15, due by February 15.
Right.
Are we also talking in that scenario then about possession not being before the 15th, or do we want to allow possession to take place sooner than that?
I think it's January 1st is my understanding, like they're at, but they just have a little time when their money comes in to pay for it. But I think most of them are probably like borrow the money anyhow. Keith,
Right.
you have a comment?
Yes, Mr. Chair. The intent on my recommendation was January 1, all sales are final. It's just allowing them to make that payment up to 45 day or by July, or I'm sorry, February 15th. Geez,
There
July.
we go.
So it really is just the financial piece is extended, that we're going to allow that they make payment up to February 15th, but everything else transition or the sale is final. Title transfers over, all of that. We're out. We have no responsibility.
And
If
I
I-
think I'll leave that up to like Morgan and like Mr. Lang to get the proper like your language, so we do have that, the sale contract, that's all taken care of.
I think if
So-
I may, to Dave's point, he had mentioned in particular Connorsville, they are going to be operating that site for their municipality January 1. They are going to want that machine out of there to free up space at their site. So I'm going to have to work with, with Rock Creek in this case to try to make that happen before the end of the year so that Connorsville isn't burdened by having a piece of equipment there they're not going to use. So we do have to, I don't know that we need a motion for that. I can work on those timelines independently with the municipalities. I don't think we need to have
Okay.
an official.
So let's get back to the original like motion, please. There's been a motion and a second for the final payment or the total payment at the very least by February 15th. And the language of the sale and when the takeover date would be January 1st. So all in favor of that motion, say aye.
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 All right.
Opposed? That motion is passed. So drawing the bids of the compost.
I'm sorry,
Ben.
Gary?
Drawing the winner of the
Oh.
compost bin.
Yeah. So we had, and I know you have a board meeting coming up, so I had Bob Kaner from Land and Water Conservation draw these names out of a recycling bucket that I put together before. We had 184 entries. We advertised for free compost bins to residents in the resource newsletter that went out a couple weeks back. We have 21 bins left over from the original 100 that we purchased. We sold all of the other ones, which is great. So your odds of winning 21 out of 184, pretty good. So I have a stack of names here. I'd be happy to read them, or I'd just be happy to take them back to my office and call these individuals tomorrow and get them their bins. It's up to you, Gary.
I'd like to have you just go back and like you call up the people and give them the good news.
You bet. Happy to do that.
Because the meeting is going on for quite a while. And if I don't go out pretty soon and get my cattle fed, I won't be at the county board meeting, which I guess is no big loss. But are there any other comments or any other discussion before we adjourn? And you have a few items, Morgan, that we can put on the like December agenda.
Yep.
That we've mentioned. So if there's no other comments, we are adjourned.